It is time to talk about the future of the Miami Marlins because this week is draft week.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for 4 seasons. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And on today's show, it's time to talk some MLB draft. The MLB draft is this Sunday. I can't wait. The Marlins are sitting at pick number 7, and there's going to be a lot of different options, a lot of different avenues they can approach this with. So I'm going to take a look at a few targets that I'm looking at and really what the Marlins need to do to execute this draft. Before all that, let me give you a quick rundown on the game, the actual Marlins game last night, Monday night. The Marlins beat the Reds 5-1. Jansen Junk was the story of this one, as well as Augustin Ramirez. Jansen Junk, 6 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, which is uncharacteristic for him, 1 unearned run, and 3 strikeouts. Jansen Junk is a lock in this Marlins rotation and an off-season addition that has proved to be quite the find for this Marlins team. And from his perspective, now that he's in a new organization and he's working with the pitching coach Daniel Moskis and he's going to have a full season under his belt in Miami, I'm really excited for him, not just for the rest of this season, but to see what he can do next year, with a full offseason and just being in the Marlins pitching lab. The Marlins are very good at developing and finding gems on the pitching side of things. Look at Ronnie Enriquez as well, who might be the Marlins closer for the foreseeable future. Augustin Ramirez, absolute stud. I mean, he'll go through some slow stretches at times, and that's natural. That's going to happen to younger players. But Ramirez, a couple hits in this one, 2-out RBI double. He laced to right center field in the gap. And then in the 7th inning, a solo bomb, just 420 feet. It looked way further. It looked about 500, but we'll take it. The power is there. And one of these years, we got to see Augustin Ramirez in a home run derby. But it's great to get a win in Great American Ballpark. You have Yuri Perez pitching this afternoon, tonight, and hopefully you can continue the big the momentum. Let's talk about the draft. It's draft week. The Marlins are sitting at pick number 7. And there's, ideally, heading into this draft, you would have loved to be in the top 5. You have the draft lottery. The Marlins finished with 100 losses a season ago, and it's just the way the cookie crumbled. You slid all the way down in the lottery to pick number 7, which is miles ahead better than where you were last year. Don't get me wrong. Last year at pick number 16, it really felt like you were hoping that one of these guys would fall to you. Cam Smith was a huge target of the Marlins, and there's nothing you could do about it except hope that he wasn't picked before you. And right before you, the Chicago Cubs snagged him. They trade him to the Astros in the Kyle Tucker deal, and now Cam Smith is tearing it up in the big leagues for the Houston Astros. Like, imagine if the Marlins had drafted Cam Smith. The future of this team, the core of this team would look a lot different just based off that one pick alone. This year, you have a lot of more options because you're all the way up at pick 7 And this draft, I don't think is chalky. What I mean by that is there's not a consensus 1-1 pick yet. There's Ethan Holiday. I've seen Cade Anderson, the pitcher for LSU. The Nationals, we don't know what they're going to do. And whatever the Nationals are going to do, that's kind of going to set the tone, set the table, if you will, for the following picks. The Marlins, what they really need in this draft is a blue chip prospect. And that's one of the things that's kind of avoided this Marlins rebuild so far. Yes, they've improved the farm system's depth. And that's testament to Peter Bendix. That's testament to the scouting department and, all the trades that they've executed, because they executed a ton of trades. I mean, a third of their roster was gutted at the deadline last year, and there was a new influx of talent. And now there's names like Robbie Snelling, Dylan Head, Davison De Los Santos. There is talent in the Marlins system, and it's in a better place than it was before. But for a rebuilding team, you need to execute the draft at a high level as well. I always think about the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros, when I started watching baseball in the mid 2010s, 2014, 2015, they were coming out of this rebuild. And they were one of the most horrible teams in Major League Baseball history. Just atrocious. No talent on the field, but what they were doing was they were getting consistent high draft choices and then smashing them, just hitting that green button, and it was working out every time. They were hitting the gold buzzer on the draft button like every single year. Not every single year. Also, you had a miss when you drafted Brady Aiken with the Astros because he didn't turn out to be anything. I don't even think he signed. Or was it Mark Appel? I think it was Mark Appel. But my point is, you still got Carlos Correa. You drafted George Springer. Jose Altuve had come up through your system and was part of those struggling Astros teams, but he became part of the Astros core. The point being is that when you draft at the top of the draft, and the Marlins aren't at the number 1 overall pick, I understand that, but they still are a top 10 pick. You got to ace these picks when you're a rebuilding team. And the whole idea for Peter Bendix, Frankie Pilieri, and the rest of the Marlins front office is that you need to continue getting talent. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stagnate. Oh, we have our core now. Let's just lay back and call it a day. No. This team is still a ways away from being where they want to be, which is perennial playoff contenders. And it starts with getting that blue chip, can't miss prospect that's going to be in the top 25 eventually in all of Major League Baseball in the prospect rankings. That's what the Marlins really, really need. They have Thomas White, and I think Thomas White is the closest thing that they have to that. And he was a competitive balance pick. He was a comp pick a couple of years back in 2023, and it's worked out. The Marlins went with Noble Meyer in that draft, but it was really Thomas White who's turned out to be the better prospect overall. And it's interesting because in that same draft, in the 2023 draft, the Marlins were kind of in the same position they are this year. Because in 2023, they were sitting at pick number 10 with a comp pick after the first round. This year, they have pick number 7, and then they have a comp pick, and they have number 43 and number 46. So 3 picks in the top 50. It's a great opportunity for this team to go get some real talent. Now it's time to talk about some names that I really want to see this Marlins team go after. That's coming up right after this. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. FanDuel is a perfect way to track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, the payouts are quick, and it makes those regular season matchups, just the everyday baseball game as we're sitting here in the dog days of summer, makes it feel like a World Series matchup because you got money on the line. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So if you're interested in this, open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, just $5 for first-time customers, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Thank you to all the everyday listeners being part of the Locked On Marlins crew. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here on the channel, on the YouTube channel. Leave a like. Leave your thoughts in the comment section as we're talking MLB draft. The Marlins are at pick 7, but like I said in the last segment, they also have a comp pick and overall 3 picks in the top 50, 7, 43, 46. It's a great opportunity for scouting director Frankie Pilieri to really leave his mark on this draft and make this one an impactful draft for Miami. This team needs a blue chip prospect. And what I mean by that is just a can't miss guy. A guy that's going to shoot up those prospect leaderboards soon after getting drafted and move through the system at a very quick pace. He's not stagnating in low A or high A. He's moving through the system. He's doing what you expect a top prospect to do. And he has the tools and the skill set to back it up. I have a few names on my list here because I think the Marlins right now are sitting at a position at number 7 where there's some really interesting prep bats that they can go after, especially in the middle infield. I'm looking at somebody like Eli Willits, JoJo Parker, or Billy Carlson Jr. I want to focus on them real quick. So ahead of you in the draft, directly ahead of you, you have the Pittsburgh Pirates, who I think are going to go after a shortstop as well. You have the St. Louis Cardinals, who could go after a prep bat, one of those shortstops. And then, like I said, with the Nationals, who are sitting at 1 overall, you could go with Ethan Holiday. You could go with a pitcher. I've also seen a mock draft where the Nationals go get Eli Willits at the 1st overall pick. Because you have to think about your collective bonus pool. Do you want to go under slot, save some money for the 2nd round if there's a guy deeper on your draft board that you really want to make sure you get? There's a ton of different options. But for the Marlins right now, I would say they're focused on one of those prep shortstops. And that's just kind of how I feel right now. Their bonus pool allotment is the 7th highest in Major League Baseball. It's $15,187,400. So they're in a very good spot to sign their guys. They're not lacking in terms of funds, you know. And I don't want Miami to go under slot and save. I want them to go after the best player available on their draft board. Whoever that is, I think they need to go after whoever is the best draft pick available. It doesn't matter to me, honestly, if it's a middle infield prep bat or if it's a pitcher, as I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But what I do think they're going to do is go between Willits, Parker, or Carlson. If any of those guys are available, I think they're a Miami Marlin. Eli Willits, switch hitter, plus defense, great contact. Willits, the only thing with Willits, though, is that, you know, he's going to stick at shortstop, which you love. You when you take a shortstop in the 1st round, especially a top 10 pick, you're going to want to make sure he continues to play shortstop at the next level, and he doesn't really have those questions that I've seen from him defensively. to stick at that position. He's not going to hit for a ton of power, though. His power is going to be questionable at best. Maybe he gets into the Marlins strength and conditioning program. They make a slight tweak to his swing here and there, get the launch angle up and the strength and muscle, added to his frame so he can add some pop and really be a 20-25 home run guy. But the power grades out slightly less or significantly less, I would say, than the hit tool. But great hitter, switch hitter. You always love to see that. He swings it from the right and the left side. It's a smooth, fluid swing from what I've seen. And Willits would be a great option at number 7. JoJo Parker. I really like JoJo Parker. He doesn't chase. JoJo Parker has a very good approach at the plate. And it kind of fits in to where the Marlins are as an organization in terms of approach. You have an elite in-zone contact rate plus an approach that you're just not giving away at bats. You're not going to swing and miss at pitches outside of the zone because you're not chasing at those pitches outside of the zone. And that means you got a good eye at the plate. You have good pitch recognition. And Parker is a bigger framed guy, 6'2", 190 pounds. I think Parker, there is some questions whether he's going to stick at shortstop. Maybe he moves on to third base. And that's all par for the course. We'll see what happens, how the Marlins feel about him if Parker does end up at number 7. Those are two really good options. And I would, if I'm sitting here on draft day and I see that the Marlins got one of those two shortstops, then I'm going to be really happy with it. There's not going to be a complaint from me. The caveat to this, and this is coming up in the next segment, is that if a certain pitcher slides, I think you go with the pitcher, no questions asked. And that's only if he slides. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. Wait, bear with me, guys. But Billy Carlson Jr. is another one. Billy Carlson Jr., I don't think is going to wait or is going to be on the board at number 7. And that's just based off, interactions that I've had on Twitter, talking with people. I don't know, but there's one draft analyst in particular who's very confident that Billy Carlson is going to be a Pittsburgh Pirates at number 6 overall. Carlson's defense is crazy good. He's a prep shortstop out of Corona High School in California, an absolute high school baseball powerhouse. They have multiple draft prospects. Carlson is going to be among the highest drafted Corona players, sitting there at top 5, potentially, definitely top 10. I'd be shocked if he doesn't go in the top 10, because if he slides at number 7, I don't see how the Marlins pass over him. Carlson, he's got a rocket of an arm. He pitches as well. Defensively, he's as fluid as they come. Now, his hit tool is a little bit behind his defense. So he's defense first. The hit tool is still good. It's not bad by any means. But when you're drafting Carlson, you're drafting somebody who is going to provide you really good to elite defense at shortstop, and then you're going to work with him offensively just to get his, everything in tap and where you want to be from an offensive ceiling. See if he can reach 20, 25 homers with some good contact, hitting 270, 280. You'd feel really great about a player like that who's going to give you that elite defense as well. Now, here's the caveat to all of that. I talked about those 3 prep shortstops who any of them, I would be happy with the Marlins taking. I think there's high upside to all of those guys. But there's one pitcher in particular that if they somehow slip down to number 7, the Marlins should take him, no questions asked, in my opinion. And that's Seth Hernandez. I'm going to talk to you about Seth Hernandez and a couple other pitchers who I like on the board. That's coming up right after this. And this episode is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope. You called the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or your computer. If you've ever juggled 2 phones to help keep your business calls and your personal calls separate, OpenPhone has solved that problem. The whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. There's no more who's handling this, who's got this call at this time, none of that. OpenPhone streamlines everything. There's going to be no more confusion and no more taking away from your personal time after work when you want to spend time with your friends and your family. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Marlins listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. If you're listening to the show, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the major podcast platforms out there, hit that 5-star review. Leave a like if you're watching on the YouTube channel, and make sure you're subscribed. Share the podcast with your friends. Locked On Marlins, Monday through Friday. We're talking some MLB draft. It is this week. I'm very excited for it. The Marlins are going to have some really important decisions to make considering their franchise and the future. This is where the future is built. Seth Hernandez is the top high school right-handed pitcher that we've seen in a while. He's got an electric arm. His fastball sits in the mid-90s. He's hit 100. He's got a true 70 grade changeup. It's a pitch that if you plugged and played into the major leagues right now, he'd be getting outs with it. He's got a big frame, big sturdy right-hander out of Corona High School, same high school that Billy Carlson Jr. goes to. I'm telling you, those Corona boys, they play some good baseball over there. If Seth Hernandez somehow slips down to number 7, and you never know, it's a possibility. All the mock drafts I've seen, most of them are predicting Hernandez to go in the top 5. They're looking at a team like the Seattle Mariners. You never know with a team like the Angels. If the Angels want to go after a pitcher, I don't think Hernandez is going to go number 1 overall because a prep right-hander has never gone number 1 overall. There's a tangible amount of risk that comes with drafting a prep righty, especially that high. It's just uncommon. You have the risk that he's a high schooler, number 1, and it takes more time for these guys to get to the major leagues. But then you're also throwing from the right side. You don't have that element of uniqueness as a lefty does, because we've seen plenty of prep left-handers go very high in the draft. Same with prep right-handers. I might be wrong, but the last prep right-hander the Marlins took in the first round or with their first pick was Tyler Kolek, and that didn't work out so well. And that was a top 5 pick. I'm trying to think here. Braxton Garrett, he was a lefty, though he was a prep arm. You have Trevor Rogers, another lefty. But yeah, when it comes to right-handers, there is an element of risk. For me, it doesn't matter. I think if Hernandez makes it to number 7, you draft him. And that is with the options you have on the board. If Carlson Jr. is somehow on the board at 7, if JoJo Parker or Eli Willits are on the board at 7, but Hernandez is there too, somehow, and even if they're not, I think Hernandez is the pick. You have an elite offering in your changeup. You have an electric fastball with the potential for more velocity, more consistent velocity. Once you get in the strength conditioning program, you add some more muscle, you work on your mechanics and fine-tune them in the Marlins pitching factory, because the Marlins have turned into a pitching factory. He's got great spin on the rest of his secondaries. You know, you look at the breaking balls, you have that spin already. you're only going to enhance it. There's a world in which Seth Hernandez comes out of the draft on the Marlins and makes his major league debut in a few years, and he's a top 5 major league prospect. I mean, he has the potential to be a frontline ace, and an ace that contends for Cy Youngs. I mean, the sky is the limit with this guy. It is sky high potential. Does he fall to 7? Right now, I would probably say no. And I think the most likely scenario is that the Marlins end up with a prep shortstop of those 3 I mentioned in the last segment. But Hernandez, that's the guy I really want. That is my number 1 draft target for the Marlins. I think the Mariners get him, but I want him. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. There's still some other guys that I think if they slide down the board, and like I said, the Marlins have picks at 43 and 46, and their college arms, if they go a prep bat in the first round with their first pick, then with that comp pick and the second round pick, I think the Marlins could target a couple of these guys. Gage Wood and Riley Quick are the names that I have written down here. Gage Wood from Arkansas, he very well might be drafted in the first round, and this goes all for naught, but he didn't pitch a ton for Arkansas. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, I believe, so there's always teams that are hesitant to go after a guy with quote-unquote injury concerns. I think the upside is too crazy not to take a chance of Gage Wood if somehow he makes it to that comp round and you can get him at 43. I think that's a no-brainer. Electric fastball. He was dominant in the World Series. I think 19 strikeouts in a complete game against Murray State for Arkansas. He's a little on the shorter side, but he's got an electric arm. He's a righty, throws mid-90s, high 90s. He's got a gun, got a cannon on him, and he's somebody that I think the Marlins would love to have fall in their laps. The other guy I wanted to bring up is Riley Quick. I think this one's a little more realistic because he's a college pitcher out of the University of Alabama, and he's just kind of a funky right-hander. Throws from a lower arm slot, but he throws gas at 97 miles an hour, and it's a sinker ball. So you look at the success that the Marlins have had with guys that throw sinkers and really try to work a batter into just pounding the ball into the ground and then missing bats on top of it. Edward Cabrera, he'll throw his sinker majority of the time now. Sandy Alcantara has made a living, won a Cy Young throwing that sinker. Riley Quick is a super, super tall dude as well. He's got a big frame. He's durable, 6'6", 245. And you look at him, he's probably not on the top of many draft boards. There's a lot of other options on there. But if Riley Quick is your second pick of the draft, a college arm that's probably going to accelerate through your system at a faster pace than your prep bat that you select in the first round, dude, I am stoked with this potential draft for the Marlins. Another option I just wanted to throw out because I like him as a prospect, Ike Irish. Ike Irish, probably not who you're looking at to get at 7 overall. Feels like a little high for his value, but Ike Irish is just a hitter. Dude can play catcher and outfield. He's out of the University of Auburn, college bat, and I think the floor is relatively safe with him just because of the hit tool that he possesses. Will the power be there? We'll see. Again, it's hard to really tell because you're going from metal bats to wood bats. There's no more, college rules in this thing. And that's why all these guys, they play in the Cape Cod League. They play summer baseball with those wood bats. But Ike Irish, I just really, really like him as a prospect. And whatever team takes him is going to have a lucky going to have a lucky day because he's going to be good. He's going to be really good. Great options for the Marlins this season. I'm really excited for what they do. They have to execute this draft. This cannot be a scenario like we were a year ago at pick number 16, where everybody said, whoa, why did we just do that when they picked PJ Morlando? Can't happen. It should be the stamp of approval across the board, across the media. The Marlins got to nail this one. They got to hit it out of the park because this is going to shape your franchise's future. So to wrap things up, the guy I really want is Seth Hernandez. I don't think it happens, but I'll be ecstatic if it does. And if not Seth Hernandez, JoJo Parker, Eli Willits, Billy Carlson, any of those three, I'll be very happy with. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Marlins. I appreciate you guys for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.